Good afternoon, everybody. Very warm welcome to today's edition of our Go Digital Western Cape webinar series. It's brought to you by the Department of Economic Development and Tourism of the Western Cape Government. My name is Robert Davids. I'm with the Digital Economy Unit at the department, and I'll be your host for today's session and take you through all the proceedings. It's really good to have all of you with us. And we would like to extend a very warm welcome to everybody in the audience for joining us today and for your interest in this webinar series and for the time taken out of your busy schedules to join us here today. Just before I continue, I'd just please like to ask the audience to turn off all video and all audio feeds. The reason for that is that we just like to keep the presentation quite smooth and streamlined with no interference to our panelists today. Then secondly, I'd like to inform you of some other, what we refer to as housekeeping rules. Firstly, this webinar is being recorded. The reason for recording the session is because we do make it available via our website at a later stage for you to review if necessary, and also to give people access who may not have been able to join our session today. Then thirdly, for those of you who have joined us before, today's session will follow the same route, that we do not take any questions during the actual session, but we please ask you to post any questions you have in the chat window. You'll see on your toolbar there's a little text box, and the chat window will pop up on the right if you wish to ask any questions. At the end of the presentation by our panelists today, we will have a moderated question and answer session. So thanks for understanding that. That's also just to keep a handle on time and how things move forward. And then lastly, for those of you who are quite active on social media, the hashtag you can use for today is hashtag GoDigitalWC for Western Cape. So please use that if you do want to share any thoughts you have about this webinar. So again, from the department and the Digital Economy Unit, we thank you for your time and your interest and your participation in our session today. So for those of you who have joined us before on previous webinars, because I think today is our 10th one in the series, you may know this already, but there may be some people joining us for the first time. Just a bit of background on the webinar series. So the Go Digital Western Cape campaign is part of the Department of Economic Development and Tourism's response specifically to the COVID-19 pandemic and the context. And this is part of a response initiative by the department and by provincial government to support businesses during this very challenging and very demanding time. And this webinar series is one of several other initiatives that the department is running. This is particularly focused on the digitization of business, how this can assist businesses in general with building and expanding and developing your business, but also specifically during this era where the way we do business is changing significantly and dramatically. And the series aims to provide thought leadership, provide awareness, also providing practical tools and tips and direction as to how digitization can really be a very powerful tool to assist businesses to navigate the COVID-19 era, but also in general, because the world is moving online at a very rapid pace, and the digital economy and digital business has steadily remained at the forefront of new developments in business practices and business strategies. So this campaign is really earmarked for that. And today's session is going to be along those lines, but at the same time, it's going to take on a slightly different flavor or a slightly different approach to previous webinars, in the manner that today we are focusing on a topic which you know by virtue of the invitation. It's going to be an Excel masterclass on practical skills to digitize your business. So that is the topic for today. And the reason I say it's slightly different to the previous set of webinars is because today we're going to focus on very practical skills, practical tips on how you can use a tool which all of us are familiar with. All of us may not use as much as the others, but all of us are familiar with Excel or spreadsheets. And we're going to move into that space with our panelist and our presenter today, Tim Parle, who is the Chief Director here at the department. I'll do a bit of an introduction to Tim in a while, but he will be taking us through this masterclass in a fun way and in an interactive way. So Excel and spreadsheets and tools like this, as I said, it's nothing new to us, but at the same time, we need to understand why we need a tool like this. All of us know that data is very important. It underpins so many decisions and strategies by business, by government, by society. And there's just so much data out there. Many of you may have heard about the concept of big data, where there are hundreds of thousands and millions of data points, which requires a huge amount of capacity to work through and to synthesize. But today we're not focusing on big data. We are focusing on data that you have in your day-to-day operations, day-to-day systems in your business. So I don't think we can go as far as saying it's small data. It's still very important data, but it's data which is much more localized and much more pertinent to your own businesses and to the SMEs which you own, operate, or run or work with, and looking at how we can use data which is within our reach on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, how we can better understand the data, but also how we can use that data to inform decisions, to inform strategies, to inform discussions that we have as SMEs. I think another aspect of this, and which today's webinar will cover to an extent, is that very often, even though you have the data, even though the data might be nice and clean and organized, it's very difficult to convey what that data means or what it implies or depicts to other people, because data is only as good as the way in which you can share it, after all. And so the way we are able to convert data into graphs, we are able to show trends, and in ways that we are able to share it with decision makers, with colleagues, with stakeholders, is very important. So while data is what we're looking at, what we use, Excel is a tool to use this, but ultimately it's about a tool to use the information and data we have to inform decisions, to inform strategies, to improve customer relations and marketing and everything along those lines. So that's a little bit of context to what we're trying to do today. And as I had said previously, this is what we refer to as a masterclass. It may be a brief masterclass, but it's going to be a fun one and an exciting one. And on that note, I'd like to introduce our speaker, or our presenter for today. His name is Tim Parle, and he's our own very own Tim Parle from the department. He's a chief director at the department in the digital economy unit, and he's been like very well. I think because I know Tim very well, he's a true techie at heart, and also a self-confessed Microsoft Excel junkie. But he's got extensive experience in the public and the private sector. His engineering background, worked with internet service providers and multinationals. So he uses this stuff all the time, and it's always best to learn and understand how to use something or how to do something from someone who actually does it and someone who enjoys doing it. So I don't think there's any better person than Tim to take us through today's session. So Tim, thank you very much for your time and for prioritizing today's session. We look forward to interesting and exciting, and perhaps sometimes, knowing you, a bit quirky, bit of a quirky session. So with that, I'll hand over to you, and you can take us through. Thanks, Tim.
Great stuff, Robert. Thank you very much. Just as a tip, if you want to make your screen full screen, if you move your mouse, your bar will come up. You'll get the three dots. If you click on that, you can then make the screen full screen, and we'll need that later when we're doing some of the Excel stuff. So I'm going to cover just a few things today. Robert's given you a bit of a heads up about spreadsheets. I'm going to do a little bit more about that, a little bit of theory, and then we're going to move into some practical. As Robert says, we're going to do this in a slightly different way. I hope it's going to be of great use to you today in your business, and it's a life skill that you're going to learn. As Robert said, I tend to use a spreadsheet for everything, and today we're going to have a fun example of that. So where did this start? I found this advert from a good few years back. It's the 1980s. There's one of the early Apple computers there with its monochrome display. And there was people with a basic spreadsheet. You can see the printout there and the sort of dot matrix printer with all those holes on the side, and the ability to draw these graphs and these colored pie charts and these area charts. This really was a novel way forward. It was something called VisiCalc. And there's a dapper gentleman there from the 1980s in his, what do you call that thing, in his waistcoat. And at a time like this, you can say there's a man holding his floppy and not blush. Yeah, that's a bit of an age joke. If you don't get that, I'll have to explain it later. So what happened next? So from we had VisiCalc, and then we had this competition with something called SuperCalc, and along came something called Lotus 123 in the late 1980s. I'd actually like to take a poll to see how many of you have actually used these systems. What followed that was something called Quattro Pro, and finally on the scene came Microsoft Excel. And it's been in various incantations, the various versions that we will see. But there are other spreadsheets available on the market. There are 8 examples that are shown here. I think Excel is the best known, and as we'll see in a moment, it is the one that is the sort of de facto. It has the largest market share. The other one is Google Sheets. That's the sort of second place on the podium. And there are some of the free Office, the Open Office suite ones. So there's openoffice.org and LibreOffice. They have their systems as well. I think NearOffice might only be for the Mac, but really in terms of market share, it's Excel and to a degree Google Sheets that dominate the market. So you can see there's a bit of a delineation that young people seem to prefer Google Sheets, young companies prefer Google Sheets, while established companies and organizations tend to use Excel. I'm going to be using Excel today, and I have the privilege of actually using the latest version of Excel because that's what we have available to us at work. I did try this presentation on some of the spreadsheets on my private laptop, which has got an older version of Excel, and it was a little complicated because there were some functions that don't work on there. So everything I do today, some of it might not work if you don't have the latest or at least a relatively recent version of Excel. So there's a bit of a graph. You can see the evolution of the logo and see how the world of graphic design has changed through to 2019, 2020. Excel came out in '85, and it's this whole question of organizing everything in columns and rows. And then the standard approach is you manipulate with formulas. That's been around since the VisiCalc days. And as this article describes, the functions are limitless. There's a spreadsheet for everything. And particularly when you now combine it with these new abilities to share data across platforms. So you can take data from your spreadsheet into your document, into your presentation, into your Power BI for visualization, all sorts of things. It really is incredible the way it's working. So I looked up a list of some popular features of Excel, and a bit too many to read out here. So I've just highlighted 3 of them. And they talk about interactive and dynamic pivot charts, and that's one thing we're going to see today. And through this, you should have a more sophisticated data presentation and ultimately have more complex spreadsheets, not just for the love of it, but for also being able to provide deeper analysis of your business and provide a better view of what's going on and allow you to make data-driven decisions. So, question is, what is a pivot table? We're just working out through the last bit of theory here. There's a definition, Wikipedia. It's this table of statistics, and it summarizes things. And the important bit to me here is in a meaningful way. It's an elementary version of data processing. And again, it's taking data, it's taking a whole lot of information, taking it into data, and then turning that into insights and things that you can use. And just as an aside, the term pivot table was actually patented by Microsoft, but it appears that they gave that up, probably against popular opinion. We're also going to speak a little bit about dashboards today. And a dashboard is a tool that, if you think of the dashboard on your car, and your first car that you bought as a student some years ago might have had a speedometer and a fuel gauge, and I think that was it. Then your next car, you've got a rev counter, and if you had a fancy 4x4, you had the inclinometer. You might have added a brake meter or a voltage meter, all these types of things. So sophistication has increased over the years. And it's a way of organizing and storing the data. And if you use the example that's on the right-hand side there, they've got a speedometer type thing. They've got infographics on it. They've got pie charts. They've got bar charts. And it just makes it easy to access from one place. A concept of a dashboard is it can provide an at-a-glance view. Some people refer to a single pane of glass, that you might get all your business information and consolidate it just onto a single screen. Some organizations, and you will have seen this in the media, they have TVs that run with a live dashboard, and so that operators and managers get this real, they can put their finger on the pulse of the business there and then. I love this picture, being a bit of a space nerd. This is the evolution of the dashboards from the Apollo missions. Look at all those displays and all those dials, those analog dials in the 1960s. The space shuttle introduced some screens. And if any of you are following the Elon Musk and SpaceX, the Dragon 2, which is currently docked with the International Space Station, the two astronauts, they drove that whole thing through sort of touchscreen displays. It was like having 3 big iPad Pros there, and they drove the whole thing from there. Really was amazing to watch. And again, it's putting all the right information at the right time in front of you. So just some Excel terminology that I'm going to use. This is a static picture. I think my mouse will work there. A cell, you'll know, is positioned by a row and a column. So the columns work up to down, the rows work left to right. We work in a single worksheet at a time, and we can flick between those sheet tabs, and that makes up a workbook. The area where the commands are is called a ribbon, and there are these things called ribbon tabs up at the top. You will recognize file, home, insert, page layout, and so on. And what you'll notice as you start to use Excel is that depending on what you're doing, this ribbon may change. So as you'll see later, that when we're in a pivot table, there's going to be some new options that are going to appear over to the right. So keep an eye out for that. So we're going to have a look at creating a pivot table. As I say, we're doing the theory here. The basic steps here is that in a spreadsheet, we're going to have some data. There's a range of data here. We're going to select that data. Then we have a choice. I'll show you a bit later as to exactly what happens. We can optionally format it as a table, and we can give that another name. But then what we're going to do on our Excel is we're going to say insert, and then we're going to say insert insert a pivot table. And that pivot table will open a small screen here, and we're going to explore that in a little bit more detail. And that is then the way that we're going to create a pivot table. So once again, the animation is take some data, you select that data, you choose insert pivot table, and create pivot table. There are some options, as I say, you can format it as a table. And in the latest version of Excel, when you highlight the data, it actually gives you recommended pivot tables. This is a form of artificial intelligence. It's already working out what it is that they think you need to do. So once we've done that, we click OK, and we're in our pivot table. Just this screen, it's called the Create Pivot Table pop-up screen. You would need to select where that data has come from. We previously selected it, or it may be an existing table. It is possible to use external data, but that's seriously higher grade stuff, so I'm leaving that out for today. Even with 20 years of Excel, I still don't know how to use that part of it. We need to work out where it's going to go on your current spreadsheet or into a brand new spreadsheet. And then there is this whole question of a data model. Again, seriously higher grade, so we'll ignore that for the time being. The field list that opens up with the pivot table on the right-hand side, wait till we get to the practical. You're going to see here that there are options. We can change the way that this thing looks. There's a choice between these sort of 5 blockies, how we're going to have the mix and match of those. There's the fields, which is, these are the column headings that were in our table, in our data table. What we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop those into a filter area, a rows area, a columns area, and ultimately a values area. We can choose to defer the layout, and that's a case where you're working on a very complicated spreadsheet. and you actually don't want it to go ahead and calculate until you've got everything in place, and then you can hit the button and tell it to update. This thing is accessible. There's a button that appears called the field list, and sometimes you need to look for this to be able to hide or expose the field list. So really, in creating that pivot table, we've selected the data, we've inserted a pivot table, we're going to get this pivot table fields, and it's how we use this is really going to determine how we slice and dice our pivot table. A slicer is a new thing that's been introduced relatively recently. And with that, you can take your data, you can add a slicer, again, insert slicer, and this way I just chose day of the week. And when you have your data in table, you're able to very quickly select, well, which of the days of the week do I want? And I can reset it, or I can choose to have be able to select one at a time only, or be able to choose several of them. And just remember that these only work on a table. And some of the older versions of Excel won't have this, and it's not backwards compatible. So I made a spreadsheet in my current version of Excel. I tried it on my personal computer, and unfortunately that didn't work. Timelines is another feature that's come along, and in a very similar sort of way, you can take your data, and with this very simple graphical interface, you can choose to cut it by year, by month, by quarter, and even by week, I think it is. I have to remind myself. There's, let me see that. Oh, it's by years, quarters, months, or days. And we'll do a practical example of that. So you drag this bar and it limits your data that's in there. The design option, again, in the latest version of Excel, when you choose to get your spreadsheet up, you get the way you can choose how things are going to look, but you also have a view of controlling the headings and so on. So right, at the moment, we're still stuck in theory, so I think it's time we moved into something practical. Now, at this stage, I'm supposed to get my cheesy Italian music playing. Let's see if I can do that. I'd like to welcome you to my restaurant, and my restaurant is called Pizza Pazza. Here's your menu for today. These are pretty simple choices, but you've got a combination of pizza and pasta. There are also drinks available. And what I'm going to ask you to do is that I'm going to ask you to order a pizza online. Robert, if you or any of my colleagues could take the link, the bit.ly link, and put that in the chat box, I'd appreciate that. And
okay, I'll do that.
Thank you, Robert. And if you could go online, and just while we've got a small break, or if there's any break in transmission, please go ahead and order a pizza. And what we're going to do is we're going to analyze that data that's come in at the end of the presentation. So here's the thing about what do I do with a pivot table. And the answer is a lot of people will say you use it to slice and dice your information. And so there's our graphic here that we have a pizza, and we have somebody has sliced and diced it in a rather unconventional manner. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to just minimize on my screen now, and we should now have Excel up on the screen. And here is my first example of some data. And this is very simply from my restaurant here, that I have got a total of 16 orders, and there are some pizza and there's some pasta. There's different meals, there's different sizes, different selling prices. And I would manage to gather some information as to who ordered this, and also what delivery mechanism it is that they are using. So let's go ahead and look at creating our first spreadsheet. So what we can do is we would highlight the information that we need, and then we can say insert, and we could go straight to a pivot table. As I mentioned before, there is the optional thing that if we just go back to home, is we could choose to format that as a table. The benefit of formatting the table will come apparent a bit later. It makes it look prettier. Let's go for this medium view there. And also, now that this is something called a table, let me just go for another color that might be more visible. Let's stick with that. Let's go for this orange. Is my table here is I can actually give it another name. So I'm going to call it Pizza Pazza data. That's my data. And in case I need to refer to it later, this is now got a name. If I ever need to change the size of the table, add new rows and things, I would do that here. Right, so I'm in my data, and I want to go back and put in that pivot table. So I can summarize it with a pivot table. It's already telling me that here. Or where we were looking earlier was insert, pivot table. This is the sort of traditional way. So my data is now called PP data, and I'm going to choose to put it on a new worksheet down here. I could have it on the side, or actually let's put it on the existing worksheet location, and let's try this, and we're going to just put it here. And let's see how that works. We've got it all on one screen. So let's go ahead and create our very first pivot table. So I'm interested to know how many pizzas have I sold. So I have got the type of pizza. So I want to have a view of rows of pizzas, and I want to count them. So if I drag down, and if I drag this also down into the values or any other thing down here, you'll see that I have a count of the type. So I have a total of 16 pizzas, 6 pasta, 10 pizzas. I could, for that matter, if I do something that's simple, let's have a look at my selling price. And if I put down there, you'll see that I now have the sum of my selling price. I can right click in here, and on the field settings, what I can change is the number format. Please cooperate with me. And let's put that into rands and cents. And now we can see that my pizzas here, we can add them up there. They're added up to just under 1,400 rand, or 1339. And there's my split of pizzas. If I was interested in finding out, I could also, I'll just put it on the side here, just move over a little bit. And instead of having the sum here, my value field setting, I could change to have the average. So what's the average cost of my pizza? Again, I should have changed the number format. I can change it as I showed you before, or just in the usual sort of way of changing a number format to currency. So the average selling price of my pasta is 76 Rand and some change, and my pizza is making me a little bit more money. What else do I want to do with this view? So I want to remove something. I just simply drag it away, and it's out of there. I'm interested to know who's ordering my pizzas. So in this particular case, I can now add to the columns my ordered by. Now, at the moment, I have now got a view of where the money is coming from. So teenagers have been ordering pasta. I've made more money, it would appear, from young adults. Although my pizzas are predominantly young adults. Now, it looks interesting, but what happens if I want to have that pictorially? I can go to my insert. Again, with Excel, there are several ways you can get to the same information. But if I now go to insert and I have a look at my charts, again, Excel is very clever and is going to give me some recommended charts, but I'm going to just rely on my old favorite and have a look. Let's just do a regular bar chart. There on our screen, we can see that we have got teenagers in blue, orange is the young adults, grey adults, and yellow are the pensioners. So that's my first view of a graph. What I might want to do is just look at one at a time. If I move my filter, my type into a filter, then I've got a view of who's who here. And I can filter that at any one stage. So now if I'm only interested to know about pizza, I've got a view of my pizza. I change the filter again, and I'm back to pasta. So there we go. I hope everybody's benefiting from that and getting some idea of what's going on. Just want to take a side view. I can see that there are some pizza orders coming in. Thank you, Anisha, Johan, Frida, Olivia, Wonk, David, Eric. My restaurant's pretty busy today. So there we are. We've created one of our first pivot chart. I'm also interested to know, for example, what's the split of sizes. We can create another pivot chart. We can, one of the easy ways is just to copy this and put it somewhere else, or else we can go into our data and again do insert pivot table and tell it where we want to put it. This time I'm going to put it on a new worksheet, so we've got a brand new clean worksheet. So let's take a look. Let's do a nicer one here. So if we take a look at our meals, these are all the meals that we've got. And let's organize them by type. And if I put type above there, then I've got pizza and pasta. And let's just go for the moment. I just want to know how many I've ordered. So if I have any field, I should be able to just drag it in there. Sorry, I missed that. Let's just drag it in. And I now have a count of my 16 meals. Let's say for argument's sake now, I wanted to change the order. And I just always think pizza should become before pasta. I can highlight that and I can move it up. So you can see there, we managed to do that. In amongst my row labels, I have all sorts of things. I can choose to sort it. I can choose to sort it in a different order if that's what I want to choose. There are, let's have a look at some, okay, I can manually rearrange items. I've already shown you that. What I might want to do here is, okay, the numbers are a bit few, but I might want to work out which are my top ones. And I can filter by the label. I can filter by the values. So we're not really going to get much benefit from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to my next set of data, which is example number 2. where I've got a lot more data. So now, if you can see that on your screen, I hope that's legible. I've got something quite similar. I've got the date of the order on the 1st in the May, the time of the order. Don't worry about this one here. In fact, let's delete that. Our meal, our size, and I've now got some information on the cost, the selling price. From that, I've calculated the gross margin. I know who's ordered it. Depending on who's the delivery service, I've got commission, and I've calculated a net margin. And I also know what day of the week is there. So it's a much richer data set. But once again, to make a pivot table, I need to select this data. I can either select it the hard way, or if I just select top left, this is this little triangle doodafy, dingus dingus. Turn that on, turn that off. That'll select all your data. Once again, insert. I'm just going to go straight to doing a pivot table. So in this pivot table, let's have a look. Now we've got some more useful information. We've now got the date of order, and let's just do a count of the order numbers. Sorry, that's the sum of the order numbers. There's a schoolboy error. What we actually need is the count. So now we have the count. We now know how many pizzas were ordered per day. What we could do is we could insert there. Let's have that as a little graph. And there we can see our restaurant is quite nice and busy, and it's a few peaks and troughs here. But to make this useful, maybe I want to divide this up per week. So if I come into the area, I can now group. And I'm going to group here by a certain number of days, and I want the 7 days in the week. And now I've grouped per week. And I can see now that, the last week was, there was only a handful of days in that. But we can see that my busiest week was here around the public holiday on the 15th of May. Oh no, that was in June. Anyway, forget that statement. But that's a way to group my data, which is quite useful. I might be interested to know if how it works if pizzas and pastas are done differently. So again, I can separate into how does my pasta look, and I get a view, and how does my pizza look, and I can get a view. If I want that on the chart, remember, I can just take that filter, and if I drag it straight in here, I've now got, I left my filter on. So let's just take the filter. Where are you? Change the filter by type, and I want to put my pasta back, and now I've got my split of the two things. Because the graph, I only chose a very simple view. If I go to, I think it's design, I can change the type of graph, and let's have a stack one, and maybe that'll look a little bit different. Not working quite the way I'm thinking because of the grouping. Anyway, let's not worry about that. So let's what else do we want to have a look at here? Let's have a look at show you. If I take a look at my meals, and I look at the type of meals, and I look at let's take a look at the cost price of the meals, and I remember that I need to put that in some rands and cents format, so we put that in currency. There we go. We've got our total cost price. We've got, let's do a gross margin in a similar sort of way. So there's somebody, if you could mute your phone, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Some of the gross margin, and we can have a look there. And at the moment, that's a little bit difficult to discern what's what. Maybe if we take our type of meal and we put it on this side, it gives us another view. It's a little bit too complicated. So again, you keep fiddling around, and you'll end up with what it is that you want to see. If we take this now, let's put this as a chart, because the charts are always useful. What am I doing? Sorry, I'm inserting a chart, and I want where's my clustered bum? And let's move this to a new screen, and then we'll be able to see it more fully. So again, here I've got my view across my different meals, and I can see that, and the main thing I want to see is my gross margin. So if I just focus on, let's have a look. We just want to have a look at the gross margin. It's the one that's in orange. I can see by the eye that my barbecue chicken is my winner. What else do we want to do here? I need to just go to my list, but as you can see, there's all sorts of different ways that we can analyze this. Maybe what I want to know is where are my orders coming from? Is one day of the week more popular than the other? Is there any with commission? These are all the things that, but just by simply putting in, as long as I've got something to do a calculation on, let's just do that on count, value field settings, count. I can see, I'm able to have a look and see where my orders are coming in. So on a graph like this, something that is quite useful is if you highlight the areas that you want, and that we, on the home screen, is we use conditional formatting. And if we take color scales, and if we just use this dark green here, we can very quickly see by the eye, even for somebody like me who's quite badly colorblind, is that the best orders, where we're seeing the most orders, are on a Sunday, are these meals, and that the focaccia on a Tuesday is the one that seems to be the winner and have the most orders. If I go back to the raw data, I'm actually going to format it as a table. And for the reasons that you'll see in a second. Wait, don't want to do that. Come on, let's do format. Sorry, I've lost my place. Format as a table, and there we go. So now I've got this as a table. What I want to show you is quite a neat feature. I'm going to just make a little bit of space up on the top here. Let's make a little bit more space. I don't want to see it. But if I click anywhere in my data now, and I go to insert, I have this thing called a slicer. And with a slicer, I can choose which parameters I want to slice this thing. So I want to slice it by, let's say, by size, type, and ordered by, and ordered type, and the day of the week. If I click those, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've now got these 5 slices that I can just position anywhere on my screen. And let's just organize them neatly. And now within my data, if I want to choose only the data, only the orders that happen on Mondays, I can click that Mondays, or only on Tuesdays, or only on Wednesdays. I can choose to have, let's say I want Monday to Thursday, I can select that. With this little button here, I can choose that it'll allow me to see how many things that I can have on and off, and I can turn the filter off. So it's something worth fiddling around with, and there are times when you want to sort of cut out various options and see what's what. I'm using a practical example at the moment where we're needing to divide the data by area, and having a slicer is a very quick and easy way to do that. Let me just reset all of those things there, and please just, there we go. Why does the phone always ring when you're presenting? And so another thing that you can add also on here, as we spoke about in the theory, is if we go to insert, is we add a timeline. Now the timeline, why is it not going to work on me? Oh, the timeline, that was my own trick. The timeline only works within a pivot table. So let's go back to our pivot table here. I'm going to just clear out some of the details so we can start again. I'm going to have my date of my order. I think I still had that grouped. I'll need to ungroup that. So we've got all the details in there. And let's put the orders in there. No, let's not do the order numbers. Let's just keep it simple. Do type and so on. So there's our different orders across the different days. If I wanted to find out over a particular period, this is where I could insert a timeline. And I'm going to do it on the date of the order. And you can see that it starts wide. I'm going to need it on individual days. Let's start with the years. I'm only interested in 2020. The quarters, I'm only interested in, I think it's are we in quarter 2? Let me just expand that for the time being. The month that I'm interested in, we only have data here for May, so that's easy. But then if we go to days, we can choose which days it is that we want to see the data for. So let's say I just only want to see from the 10th to the 20th. I can use this here, and I can now slice my data. Let's just go one more. And now I've only got the data. I've managed to slice it that way. So let me just 1 second while I just refer to a list, and we've spoken about that. We're spoken, filtering and rearranging. So we've covered most of the basics. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up a gear, and I'm going to change to another spreadsheet. This is now a third example. And in our third example, I've now got 6,000 line items. So very similar sort of stuff, but there you can see I've got almost 6,000 orders. My little restaurant has been nice and busy. And this is where, if we follow the same order, we insert, we do a pivot table, And maybe what we want to do now is we might want to filter by the date of the order, and we're going to have a look at the type of the order. We're going to have a look at meals, and we're going to have a look at the gross margin. We want to see show me where the money is. So gross margin. Gross margin, remember, is money. So we want to format that as currency, as numbers. And okay, so there we go. So now I have a view across my data. I actually prefer if I can see the pasta and the pizza there. What I might want to do is I might want to have a look at this across a particular date range. So you can see there that I'm showing every day of the month. That's really isn't really going to be much help for me. So you know, what we'd like to be able to do is have a date filter. If I have the filter, if I have it in as a row filter, then I can at least now the date of order. I can now do a date filter and tell me which were the orders that happened in the last month. And I can, and so those will be only those that were in May, and I'll be able to select the date between, you know, what happened yesterday before. So we can actually set a range here. So give me the between, let's go between the I don't know, 5th of March and the whatever reason I want to have it between the 5th of March and the 15th of May. I'm able to calculate and see what happens there. Oh, look, I lost some money on some of those deals. So I hope you're seeing now that there's all sorts of different ways and different things that you can put together here. Where this now comes to be useful is that if I take a chart, now let's just start with a nice basic one here. Let's have our type of meals, and we want the number of meals. And so, as I said, we've got 5,900 and we've got close on 6,000 meals. I'll do a Jacob Zoomer there, not read the number. For some reason, we do have one blank row. But if I have that, and let's just have that as a very simple pie chart as my first sort of thing, is I want a pie chart, a pizza pie, and I want to show the difference between those two. I'll make a new tab now. We're going to call it dashboard, not dashboard, dashboard. We can take this graph and we can copy it, Control-C, and we can post it on here. And then we can have our titles, and you'll see later I've got a bit more of a graphical one, a bit more interesting. We can have some details here, let's make it bold. And first of all, we can change this here to total orders. And this looks a bit ugly. What we're going to want to do, various things, is for a start in our dashboard, I would suggest that we're going to get rid of the grid lines in the background. This here, I don't really fancy having a border. I like just a nice, clean, white area. I want to get rid of these filters. I can hide all the field buttons, and I want to make that a little bit bigger. But you can see now I've got my first part of my dashboard. I can click on it here, and I can add data labels. Oops, I need to add. So add. We can do it here. We can add data labels, and let's do them inside. And why have I not got a data label there? I think I hadn't. Let's just do that again. Add data labels off and data labels. So there's our number of data labels, and there's various options that we could have on there. We could probably add. We could add percentages and things like that. We wanted to know the split of our pizzas. What else do we want to see? We want to see, if we now go back to our pivot table here, let's take another pivot table. We need to create another pivot table, so I come further down the sheet. And let's say on this, I want to have a view of my type of meal. Not meal, sorry, is it meal? Come on, in you go. Sorry, I forgot that I'm on camera as well. So there's my different meals, and I'm going to do it by type. And that is something that I might want to now, my screen is a little bit limited. Let's illustrate that as a line graph. So once again, we do that. Oh, where's my clustered columns? Okay, so we can see that we've got quite a few. It's a nice colorful display. I know certainly my boss would really like that. So here we have our different order numbers. Let's move this legend. There's various options that we can do on this thing here. What are we going to do? We want to get rid of the stuff at the background, hide the buttons. We want to get rid of the border. come on, out the way. Sorry, line, fill, I've lost it. This should be here. Where's my border? There we go. No line. This legend here, I actually would prefer the legend at the bottom. That makes a bit more sense to me. And yeah, so there I have a view, and I'm sure that we can improve on that over time. But you can see the basics of creating a dashboard. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to change gears to a dashboard that I've created. As they like to say on the British TV programs, here's one that I created earlier. Let me just let this load. And again, you can see very similar data. And we can see that we have all sorts of pivot tables that I prepared, one to do with order numbers and pizzas and cost price and so on. And here I have a dashboard, which shows for Pizza Pazza. Let's make that a little bit bigger. You can see there we had our close on 6,000 orders, and we've got a nice view across the different orders. I have an order value, which is close. You can see it was 445,000 rands worth of pizzas and only close on 80,000 rands worth of pastas. But where does my profitability lie? They're actually very, very similar. Pizza and pizza, strangely enough. I hope that's I've got that working properly. I will double check that. And I've got a nice graphic here of who's ordering by size, who's ordering, and my pastas and pizzas by size and ordering, and even my net promoter score. I could add all sorts of things to here and my dashboard, but it just depends on what it is that I want to see. So if we go back to my presentation, if you remember that you were ordering your pizzas and your pizzas, I have now managed to create a live dashboard from these orders. So just bear with me a moment. Well, I'm just going to find it on here. And it looks very similar to the other dashboard. But there we go. We can see my orders that have come in. Eric Cantona, very glad to have him here today. Thank you for your orders. There's my pivot table with my various things. Your pivot table will update when you load a spreadsheet for the first time. But here is our dashboard that during this presentation today, we've had 15 orders. I've made total order values about, add those up here, about 1,240 Rand. Oh, my pizzas aren't very profitable. My pastas are a little bit more profitable. No, it's not too bad, 24, 29%. And what did you think? People generally liked the score and were happy with the ordering process. 50-50 split on the pastas and the pizzas. So this is a dashboard that has been created from data that has come in. It's actually come in live into our system. And as you can see, we've run various pivot tables on it. And with that, we have managed to create a dashboard. So I hope that's been a bit of a whirlwind tour through these various areas. We have seen on here, we have had a look at a basic table. We saw slices and timelines, dashboard. We built a small dashboard, and we've had some conditional formatting. So folks, this is the end, the last slice. There we go. I knew there'd have to be a bad pun there somewhere. So the pivot tables, they're easy to create. Really, you just need to experiment with this. I'm happy to send out this data set to anybody who would like it, and can have your own go at slicing and dicing it and creating your own dashboard. With any of these things, it's always driven by a real application. If there's something that's driving you to do this, and you see it, you'll want to do it. Also, it's a really good idea to emulate others. And so just, my advice is take a data set, experiment with it, and just have some fun. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm going to, you'll be able to get off in time because I'm sure you're salivating for some real pizza after that. We'll finish our call a little bit earlier, but I'm now going to hand back to Robert. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And I'll see if there are any questions. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, Tim, thank you very much. That was really awesome. And wow, a whirlwind through Excel. I must admit, I realize now how little I actually know about Excel. And it's good to know that a pivot table has nothing to do with moving furniture. A dashboard is not that thing behind the steering wheel in my car. And then, as you had said now, you're talking about slices and pizza and pasta. Yeah, I think my appetite has gone up a little bit, so I might change my menu for dinner this evening. But thank you very much, Tim. I think it was really great the way we were able to use really practical examples, and also to spark, I think, the imagination. I know my imagination, and I'm sure those in the audience also. So because very often we don't know what we don't know. and being exposed to something as practical as this and relatable was really helpful. So I think also just some comments from my side. Definitely, many business owners and entrepreneurs very often work from the gut, and they just kind of know their market, they know their community, they know their ecosystem, and that very often is what drives decisions. But I think at the same time, what you've also been able to illustrate is that decisions which are driven by data or by facts can go a long way into one, either substantiating and supporting gut-based decisions or instinct decisions, but this at a different time may also tell you that actually on this one your instincts may not be correct because of what the data tells you. So I think it's really a good pairing between instinctive business management and entrepreneurship plus data. I think can become a very, very powerful tool. I mean, I know you were talking very much in the context of a restaurant business or food industry, but the same techniques and approach can be used for customer relations, can be used in marketing, can be used even for research, stock taking, various things, or not stock taking, but stock management. So I think the areas in which it's applicable, I hope that has sparked a lot of kind of thought and interest in our audience. And there may be some experts out there already, so I'm not saying everybody doesn't know, but really a great power pack presentation. I think just some questions. Firstly, perhaps in order to get to using Excel spreadsheets and getting to the graphs and the various illustrations, I think for businesses, what would you say if there are businesses who are new to this or SMEs who are new to this? A very important aspect is to capture the information or the data correctly, efficiently, and cleanly from the word go. So what would you say, or what would your advice be to a SME who has the basics or doesn't have the basics, or those who just want to advance with their current level, to how to manage the data capturing? Is it something that is automated through an application or something you can buy, or is it something that actually becomes a manual process, like a different kind of bookkeeper for data? What would you advise are tools or methods which, just in terms of data capturing and management, that businesses could use?
Good question. Thank you, Robert. So it's going to vary from business to business and your level of maturity. I mean, spreadsheets, they came out of the concept of ledgers, the basic rows and columns and number crunching those. So yeah, is record what you can, work out what is meaningful for your business. If you can get automated information, so much the better. We use the example here of our Pizza Pazza restaurant, and many restaurants, as an example, will have a point of sale system, and their point of sale system will be collecting this data. And the question is whether you can access that, and your point of sale will do the analysis for you. But as you say, whether you're selling, doing wheel alignment or selling pizzas, it's the same sort of a concept here. So yeah, work out what you can capture it methodically, analyze it, and then iterate. You need to go back again and have a look and confirm that you're getting the right stuff. When I was fiddling around with the data, I didn't end up on the dashboard. I had quite a nice view of my mock data here, and it was showing that teenagers ordering over Uber Eats, spelt not like the other one, but over that was where the main orders were coming from, and also the main profitability. So the question, what do you do with that information? There's two parts. One, you say, well, I'm going to drive that business harder, and I'm going to, my social media campaign is going to target those people, that particular age demographic, and that the folks who want to use that, because if it's working, maybe it can work some more. The flip side is once you've reached something as saturated, you may want to say, well, I see that pensioners aren't ordering on a Thursday night. Why is that? Maybe if I have a pensioner special, less 10%, that'll drive sales. So yeah, work it out, analyze it, slice it and dice it, and find out what works for you.
No, great stuff, Tim. That's really, yeah, that's really helpful. And I think the last question, just which we'd like to pose, is that obviously, depending on the size of your business, depending on the nature of your business, you'd handle this kind of data and information that comes out of it very differently. So perhaps in your experience, once you have the data, once you're able to use the various tools that Excel has, is this something which business owners or managers need to engage with almost on a daily basis? Do you think it's something that should be what's the word? Not shared, but the rest of your staff should be engaged in. And the reason I'm asking that is because I think what data sets illustrate is that very often it sparks new questions. And as you had said earlier, if you don't know which questions to ask, if you don't know what you want to know, the data will just be dead information. But I think in terms of the creative process and the process of understanding your context and your data better, is it something which in general is something which is confined to one or two persons, or is it something that actually gets or should get shared and used more broadly within your business or environment?
Again, superb question. I think it's something that should be shared. I think people should be able to see that. Sometimes people shy away from the money, that they think that staff shouldn't see how much money is coming in and going out. But people need to know that the business is being profitable, and that their jobs are secure, and that maybe there's some opportunity for them. That success breeds success. I was sticking with the food example, but you take one of the fast food restaurants, the big chains. They have dashboards available for their staff to see. They are measured. They know that they're being measured, and those burgers must come out in time. Those burgers must come out hot, and they can see where the parts of the process that are running behind schedule. So because that business owner, that franchise owner, is not going to make the profit if the staff aren't getting those burgers through quickly enough, and they are losing customer satisfaction. So there's all sorts of tools that are developed over the years, and there's I'm trying to remember the names of various things, and this like net promoter score seems to be is the hot topic at the moment, and have that as a dashboard. I really, there are those items when you go to certain stores that have the three faces, the smiley face, the neutral face, and the red face, and how do you rate my service? I think people, we need to give honest feedback. We need to give feedback. Businesses need to collect it at every opportunity.
All right, Tim, thank you. I think that covers all our questions. Is there anything, last comments you want to add from your side before I round off and close out?
Come to Pizza Pazza for your lunch. There we go.
Bellissima. This is being recorded, so yeah, we can always edit it. That's a great final touch. Thank you very much. We'll take that as your last comment and last input. So really, I think that was really from the comments in the chat. I think the audience has had really positive feedback and comments, and that's been really useful. And also that it's sparked a new awareness about how Excel can be used, and also extend the use for those who are already a bit of an expert on it. So thank you very much to you, Tim, for your time, for presenting, for putting together information, and for the way in which you delivered it. Was really great. So I'll just have a few more comments to add from my side for the audience. Thanks, Tim. I'm just going to take over the screen and share mine again. So there we go. So just a few closing comments from my side. Once again, thank you very much to Tim. Sorry, there's a bit of interference of noise, but that will hopefully go away soon. So thanks very much again to our presenter, Tim Parle, and thank you to our audience members, all of you who've joined us for today's session. It's really great to have you on board. Our webinar series will be continuing into the month of July. Well, today's the 1st of July, so we're already in July. And some of the topics coming up, if the presentation will play along, is on e-commerce, on-demand delivery and retail platforms, online contactless payment systems, and then also cloud-based solutions for SMEs. We're having panelists from Amazon, from SnapScan, etc., which will be joining us. So keep your eye on your mailbox for the new invitations. And then also, if you want to see some of our previous webinars, you can visit our website. You can see it at the top of your screen. You can visit our website, and there, if you've missed any of our past webinars since April, May, you can find them there, and you're able to watch them at your own leisure. So From our side, that's it for today, for today's session. Thank you very much again to Tim, our presenter, to you and our audience, and to the digital economy team for making all this happen in the behind the scenes. So from our side at the Digital Economy Unit and the department, thank you very much. Stay healthy, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, and bye-bye.